Hello, I'm Joseph Casa, and I'd like to share with you what Google's Notebook LM AI thought. Notebook LM's impression of my book, Systemic and Systematic Project Management. It impressed me. I hope it'll impress you as well. So over to Notebook LM.
You ever been on a project that just felt cursed? Come on, you know the one. The timeline keeps slipping, the budget just balloons, and every single meeting feels like you're just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. It's a feeling we all know, a huge frustration in the world of getting things done. So let's dive into this, because it turns out there's a really fundamental reason why so many projects go completely off the rails, and it's not something you'd find in a typical project management textbook. This quote, right here, is known as Cobb's paradox, and it's basically the central mystery we're going to solve. For decades, we've had all the tools, all the certifications, all the methodologies designed to stop failure in its tracks. And yet, it keeps happening. This paradox, it isn't just a quirky saying, it points to a massive blind spot in how we've been looking at projects, a flaw we're about to uncover. All right, so to figure out where we're going wrong, we first have to understand the old rules of the game. See, the traditional way of thinking about project management has been dominated by this very simple, very neat, and as it turns out, very incomplete idea. Yeah, I'm sure this looks familiar to a lot of you. For decades, this has been the holy trinity of project management: scope, cost, and schedule. Success was defined so simply. Did you deliver what you promised, on budget and on time? Every single chart, every status report was built around tracking these three things. They're the measurable, tangible pillars of any project. So, is that really the whole story? Well, the short answer is no, not even close. In fact, the very framework we've been using to measure success is also a huge reason why we so often fail. By focusing only on these three things, we've been completely blind to the real forces that are actually running the show. So if the answer isn't on the Gantt chart or buried in some budget spreadsheet, where is it? Well, the answer lies in looking at the one thing the traditional model completely, and I mean completely, ignores. And there it is: people. For so long, we've been treating projects like they're just engineering problems, when in reality, they are human systems. You know the classic triple constraints. They see a project as a machine with three simple levers. But we're now realizing there's a fourth, way more complex constraint: people. The right people can make any project work, and the wrong people, well, they can break it, no matter how perfect the plan is. And this just hits the nail on the head, right? The real friction, the real source of delays and those budget overruns, it all happens in the messy, unquantifiable world of human interaction. It's the unspoken office politics, the miscommunications, the stakeholders who all want different things. These are the things that actually sink projects, and they are totally invisible to our traditional tracking methods. So how do we start to see these invisible forces? We need a new framework, a totally new lens to look through. And this is where the 7P framework comes in. It gives us a much more complete picture of what's really going on. Okay, here it is, the 7P framework. This expands our view from just the what and when to include all the interconnected pieces that truly make a project tick. And notice, processes and products, the main focus of traditional management, they're just two small pieces of a much, much larger puzzle. And the key word here is interdependent. You can't touch one of these without affecting all the others. And this right here, this is the core insight. This is the big aha moment. We have poured all of our energy into perfecting the processes to create the products, while almost completely ignoring the two areas where failure is actually born: the incredibly complex worlds of people and politics. It's like we've been optimizing the assembly line while ignoring the fact that the operators aren't even talking to each other. Adopting this kind of framework isn't just about getting a new checklist. It demands a fundamental shift in how we think about problems. It's about moving from just seeing the path to seeing the entire forest.
Okay, this distinction is absolutely crucial. Systemic thinking is what we're used to. It's the logical, step-by-step process of creating a project plan. It's essential, but it's not enough. Systemic thinking, on the other hand, is the ability to see the project as a whole, as a complex ecosystem where all 7Ps are interacting with each other all the time. It's understanding that a problem with people is going to cause a problem with products. We need both, but for a long time we've been leaning way too heavily on just one.
And look, if we're going to start thinking in this new way, we're going to need some new tools, right? Tools that are actually designed to make all those invisible forces visible. So let's make this real. Take a look at this. This is an example of a CRI chart that stands for Categorized Requirements and Process. Now, instead of just a done or not done status, it tracks work across its entire life cycle, from the moment it's identified all the way to when it's finally accepted. And you can see how it's also broken down by cost, which is often a good stand-in for complexity. This view helps us see not just how much work is getting done, but how that work is actually flowing through the system. So what does a chart like this actually do for you that a normal status report can't? Well, it reveals the hidden bottlenecks. It shows you the traffic jams. For example, you might see that tons of simple, low-cost tasks are just flying through the system, which makes it look like you're way ahead of schedule. But this chart could reveal that your most expensive, most complex tasks are all getting stuck right at the beginning, piling up in the in-process column, but never making it to completed. See, that's not a schedule problem. This is a diagnostic tool that points you toward the real issue. Maybe it's a people problem, a politics problem, or a process problem. It makes those invisible blockages impossible to ignore. All right, so how do we take all of this and actually apply it to our own work? It really starts by changing the kinds of questions we ask ourselves. When you boil it all down, the big takeaway is this. Your job as a project manager isn't just to be a taskmaster. It's to be a systems thinker. It's about nurturing the health of the entire project ecosystem, not just ticking boxes off a list. You're not just building a product. You are orchestrating a complex and often messy human endeavor. And I'm going to leave you with this one last thought. I want you to think back to your last really difficult project. You know, the one that kept you up at night. Was the root cause truly just a bad cost estimate? Or was it maybe a key stakeholder who felt ignored, a team that wasn't motivated, an unspoken political battle simmering under the surface? Once you start looking at your projects through the lens of all 7 Ps, I promise you will never see them the same way again.